everyone, welcome back to the Casual Ethnographer. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm currently in a flare, which means that my energy and focus and ability to put on makeup is quite a bit hindered. So it's going to be a low-key episode. I'll talk about my journey with infertility, feed Bertha, check in on Shelf Indulgences, do a quick recap of today, June 9th's uncommon holidays and famous birthdays, and then at the end I'll talk about my flare. I hope you'll stick around. June is Infertility Awareness Month, and this particular awareness topic has hit me pretty close to home. I myself struggled with infertility for 15 years. I was diagnosed young with PCOS, otherwise known as polycystic ovarian syndrome, and also endometriosis. Both impacted my ability to get pregnant and also my health in other ways. And it contributed to the decline of my first marriage. I did a lot of treatments. I had surgeries. I had medications, procedures. It was exhausting. I was in and out of therapy, trying to deal with not being able to have kids. And when we finally got to the place where my first husband and I, we were told by doctors, the two of us together were not going to have children. I looked into adoption, maybe fostering, and he was solidly against that. And that was pretty much the beginning to the end. But when we separated, I left the state. I moved to Washington State. I was only supposed to be here for a year, but I've been here for almost 16 now. And I did eventually meet my husband, and I thought that I would just be a stepmom. And I was so surprised when I found out I was pregnant that I didn't believe the test, actually. It was a 3-pack test. I took the first test. It was positive. I've never seen a positive test before. Told my husband. He was like, well, I guess you're pregnant. I was like, well, I don't get pregnant. And so I took, over the next couple days, I took the other 2 tests, and they were both positive. So I told him at dinner one evening, I've taken all the tests in the box and they're all positive. I must have got a bad box of tests. And he just looked at me, he's like, maybe you're just actually pregnant. I went to the doctor, they did their thing, and yes, I really was pregnant. Tomorrow is that daughter's birthday. She'll be 10. So it has been a long journey for me, and every day is, parenthood is stressful. Anyone who's a caregiver or a guardian or a parent, your kids make you crazy. But both of my kids are such blessings, such little miracles. And I still remember how excited I was the night before the scheduled C-section that I was going to get to meet her finally. I held her in my arms, and she was just such a perfect little monkey. That's what I call them, my monkeys. But so when I found out I was pregnant a second time, I was kind of shocked, but very happy. I had just turned 40. And so not long after the pregnancy started, I had a really bad pain on the right side, went to the emergency room, and it turned out to be a cyst. I do have PCOS, so I wasn't that surprised, but they said it was a bad one. And they had to monitor me the whole pregnancy. Was I going to have surgery? They were worried about torsion, which is when the ovary turns and cuts off its blood supply. So it was a stressful pregnancy. And again, C-section, because I'd already had one. So when they got her out, they turned their attention to that ovary, and they told me it had been destroyed by the cyst. So they took the ovary, they took the tube, and that was it. I had my 2 perfect little miracle surprise babies, and I am so happy to finally be in this place. It's interesting how families come together, and I really feel for anyone out there who is going through infertility struggles. It impacts men and women, and you can even have secondary infertility. I worked with a woman for years who, she had one baby very young, she was 19 or so, and then she was never able to get pregnant again. She was never able to expand her family biologically. She did end up fostering years later. But so yeah, Infertility Awareness Month is a big one, and so my heart is out to anyone going through that struggle. While I feed Bertha this morning, I'll take you along for this week's installment of Shelf Indulgences, my casual book club. Today I'm refreshing her with a mix of cassava, buckwheat, and sweet potato flours. I will pull out 2 bowls of discard, 240 grams each, one for a dessert and the other for an experimental, grain-free version of Irish soda bread. It will also be dairy-free and egg-free. Fingers crossed it works. This week I read myths 8 through 12 in the Norse myths by Crossley-Holland. And the gods are not all right. They're impulsive, they're messy, and apparently they fall apart without their magical apples. Myth 8 was titled The Theft of Idun's Apples. Loki gets himself tricked into delivering the goddess Idun and her magical, age-defying apples into the hands of a giant. Without her, the gods start to age rapidly, and suddenly Loki's shenanigans aren't so funny. He eventually rescues her, but the myth kind of fizzles out. It ends abruptly, but it does carry us right into the next story. Myth 9, titled The Marriage of Njord and Skadi. Skadi, the daughter of the giant from the last myth, marches to Asgard to avenge her father's death and ends up with a husband instead. The gods offer her marriage and a joke in exchange for peace. She chooses her husband by picking the nicest feet, hoping for Balder and getting Njord instead. The two can't agree on where to live, so they separate. It's weirdly anticlimactic for a woman who showed up ready to go to war. Myth 10 was titled The Treasures of the Gods. This one kicks off with Loki cutting off Sif's golden hair just for the fun of it and ends in a showdown between 2 sets of magical dwarven craftsmen. There's drama, wagers, trickery, and some top-tier magical gifts for the gods. Loki promises his head if the second set of gifts is better, and when they win, he weasels out of it on a technicality. So they sew his lips shut, temporarily. Honestly, Loki is the god of chaos and consequences, and somehow still manages to skate by. Myth 11, Skirnir's Journey. This one made me angry. Freyr sees Gerd from afar, decides he must have her, and sends his servant Skirnir to convince her. When Gerd refuses, he threatens her into submission. She eventually agrees to meet Freyr in 9 days, not because she wants to, but because she's terrified. It's coercion dressed up as romance, and it's hard to stomach. Myth 12 was titled The Lay of Grimnir. Finally, something satisfying. We get a long backstory about a corrupt king and his good-hearted son. Odin intervenes as a mysterious prisoner, of course, and the bad king dies by his own drunken clumsiness. The son takes the throne, and for once, everyone ends up where they belong. It's not exactly cheerful, but it's one of the more coherent and rewarding myths so far. These myths continue to challenge my expectations. The Norse gods aren't wise or noble. They're wild, unpredictable, and sometimes deeply problematic. But maybe that's the point. They aren't ideals, they're reflections. And reading about their messiness, weirdly cathartic. We'll continue with myths 13 through 18 next week. Until then, happy reading. Today, June 9th, I have picked 3 uncommon holidays and 3 famous birthdays to go over with you. The first of which is National Donald Duck Day. He made his official debut in 1934, so happy birthday, Donald. Number 2 for uncommon holidays, National Strawberry Rhubarb Day. So if you are a pie lover, bake a pie if it's not too hot where you're at, or stop by the store and get yourself a strawberry rhubarb pie. And the third one is National Meal Prep Day. Whether you're just cutting up your veggies to prep for the week, or you go all out so that you don't have to struggle through the week preparing all the meals every day, good for you. Keep it realistic. Birthdays, we have Michael J. Fox. I knew him from Family Ties and also Back to the Future, and but He also is a Parkinson's advocate, and he's very honest about his storytelling about what he himself experiences as someone with Parkinson's. Second birthday is Natalie Portman. She is an Academy Award-winning actress. She's a Harvard graduate, and she has been in a lot of pretty cool movies. Number 3, I decided to pick one from way back. We have Peter the Great. He was a Tsar of Russia and born in 1672. He was known for modernizing his country and for the Navy. So happy birthday to Michael, Natalie, and Peter. From the age of 3.5 to just past my 18th birthday, I was lucky to grow up in a home with my maternal grandmother in it. She taught me many fun recipes, and this is a modified version of a Depression-era recipe called Wacky cake. If you're not familiar, during the Great Depression, some ingredients like butter and eggs were not always available, and so this recipe naturally does not have those items. And then I modified it to include grain-free flours and sourdough starter. I start off with a 9x9-inch square glass baking dish. I do not grease it. I add a 1/4 cup each of cassava flour, buckwheat flour, coconut flour, and tiger nut flour. And then a 1/4 cup of Dutch cocoa. One teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda. I buy mine in large packages and then put it in those jars. It just makes it easier for me. This is a grain-free baking powder, and I use 2 teaspoons. Next comes 1 cup of regular granulated white sugar, and then with a spoon I just start mixing, and it takes a while to get everything incorporated. The tiger nut flour naturally likes to clump, and sometimes so does the baking soda, so I just keep working it until I get it into completely mixed state. Then I'm going to make 3 wells, 1 long and narrow, and then 2 holes. And these are for the ingredients that you see there. In the first small hole, I will put approximately 1/8 of a teaspoon of almond extract and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. For a small hole, I put 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And then in the long well, 5 tablespoons of avocado oil. Then I add in the 240 grams of sourdough starter discard, and then a 1/2 cup of warm water. And again, just start mixing until it's well incorporated. Unlike wheat flour, where you have to be careful how much you mix it or it'll change the texture of the item, with grain-free flours that is not a concern. Just mix it and mix it until it is well incorporated. And I smooth out the top, and this will go into a 350-degree preheated oven for 40 minutes. My favorite way to frost a cake is with ganache, and I have figured out how to make it dairy-free. So with this particular brand of coconut cream, I add it to a microwave-safe dish, and I microwave it for about a minute. You want it to be warm without being hot because you don't want to seize your chocolate. Chocolate can become ruined very easily. If it's overheated, it will literally seize up on you. This is one of the 3 brands that I buy of allergen-free chocolate chips. So I just dump the whole bag into the warmed up can of coconut cream, not milk, coconut cream. I start the slow process of stirring and stirring and stirring. It takes time, it takes patience. Don't rush the process. Just keep working it until everything is incorporated. Then I add in just a splash of almond extract, and I do measure with the cap. That is a habit I learned from my mom and my grandma. And with vanilla extract, I just give it a full cupful. You could use just about any extracts that you like. These are just the ones I happen to like. I mix it well, let it sit on the counter for a bit before I pop it in the fridge. Oftentimes, though, I will frost a cake before it's fully set up because it can get quite hard after refrigeration. So let's talk flares. Since July of last year, I have been dealing with an interesting set of symptoms that include bone-deep fatigue, dizziness, sometimes I'll run a fever, some really annoying symptoms. Still going through a diagnostic process. But I could sense that a flare was coming, and normally I would take steps to mediate it, but this time around I just had too much going on and I couldn't slow down. So by the time I got to Thursday night, my body slowed me down and it was like, no, you're done. So Friday, I think it was, I was running a fever. I have just been trying to lay low. I still have things I got to get done, but as best I can, I've been laying low. So this week, Thursday, and next week, Thursday, I will not be releasing any episodes. I need to slow down everything. I need to slow down everything. I will still do an episode next Monday, the 16th, and then the following Monday, the 23rd, I'll make an assessment then if I need to continue this modified schedule of once a week only, or if I can go back to doing Thursday episodes as well. So I appreciate your patience with that. If you yourself struggle with chronic illness, I'd be curious to know ways that you work through it, if you can tell when a flare is coming, how you recover from your flares yourself. Everybody is different, but somebody out there has a magic formula. I would love to hear it. So that wraps up today's episode. I appreciate you coming back around and that you continue to support the content that I am putting out. I will see you next week, Monday, for another Shelf Indulgences and Feeding Bertha. I'm still trying to figure out what kind of content otherwise to put out on Monday. But I hope to see you back here. And as always, thank you for being here. I appreciate your presence. I'll see you next time.